The screen fades from black. The low hum of rotors builds. The desert sky is painted in muted gold, a storm brewing on the horizon. Sometimes, destiny doesn't announce itself with a trumpet, the narrator's voice echoes. It whispers in the dust, in the shadows, and in the markings we thought we'd left behind. She was just another ground crew specialist at first glance, helmet tucked under her arm, face streaked with grease, and a pair of hardened gloves worn thin from hours of handling steel. Her name was Elena Ramirez, and on that scorching day, she stood by the shadow of an AH-64 Apache gunship, her hands steady as she loaded Hydra 70 rockets into their pods. The heat shimmered around her, sweat glistening under the merciless Afghan sun, but her movements carried precision, almost ritualistic. Every rocket, every latch, was placed not with routine, but with reverence. The pilots joked nearby, tossing half-hearted words about chow time and sandstorms. To them, Elena was just part of the machine that kept the beast flying. They didn't know. Nobody knew. Until the commander saw it. Colonel James Whitaker had led men for 20 years. He was steel in human form, his presence enough to quiet a hangar with just a glance. That afternoon, as he strode past, barking orders about readiness checks, his eyes froze on Elena's sleeve as she reached for another rocket. An Insignia. Faded, frayed, but unmistakable. The wind seemed to hush. It wasn't the standard patch of her unit. It was darker, stitched into her fatigues by hand. A talon gripping lightning. A shadowy emblem most believed had been retired, or buried. The insignia of the Ghost Talons. The Ghost Talons weren't officially listed anywhere anymore. They were whispered about in Pentagon corridors, remembered in fragments among black files. An elite unit of shadow operatives who had vanished from the books a decade ago after a mission that shook entire governments. And here it was, on the arm of a woman who was supposed to be just another ground tech. Whitaker's chest tightened. He had seen that insignia once before. Years ago. In a place he swore he'd never speak of again. He stopped mid-stride. His voice came low, sharp. Specialist. Where did you get that patch? The crew fell silent, glancing between Elena and their commander. She froze for a fraction of a second, her hand hovering over the pod. Then she looked up, her dark eyes meeting his. It's mine, sir. The world seemed to tilt. That night, the storm broke. Rain lashed against the tin roofs of the outpost as lightning cut the horizon. The mess hall buzzed with hushed conversations, all of them about her. Soldiers who once overlooked Elena now glanced with suspicion, curiosity, even awe. The commander had called her in for questioning. Inside the briefing tent, maps littered the table, radios crackled faintly, and the dim light threw long shadows across the canvas walls. Whitaker sat opposite her, jaw clenched. I'll ask again, he said. The Ghost Talons were disbanded 10 years ago. Nobody was supposed to walk away. So who the hell are you, Ramirez? She leaned forward, elbows on the table, her voice low and steady. I was never supposed to come back, sir. But I did. Whitaker's hand trembled just slightly as he set down his pen. Memories he had buried threatened to surface, the ambush, the firefight, the night they lost half their men. And among the chaos, the woman who disappeared in the smoke. Her. You were there, he whispered. Elena nodded. The silence between them was heavy. The storm outside rattled the walls, but inside, it was the weight of revelation that shook them both. The next mission briefing came 2 days later. Intel had confirmed a weapons convoy. Moving through the valley, a convoy supplying insurgents with arms powerful enough to down aircraft. Stopping it wasn't optional. It was survival. But the terrain was a death trap. Pilots had refused to run it. The corridor was narrow, ridged with cliffs, perfect for ambush. Every simulation ended the same way, losses too high, mission failure inevitable. Until Elena stepped forward. I know that valley, she said. Every head turned. Her voice didn't shake. She laid out the routes, the choke points, the hidden paths carved into the rock. She spoke like someone who had walked those cliffs in silence, who had studied them under fire. Because she had. The Ghost Talons had bled there. And she had survived. Whitaker's eyes burned into her. He saw not the grease-stained mechanic, but the shadow operative reborn. Against protocol, against reason, he gave the order. She's leading this one. The mission began under the blood-red sky of dawn. Apaches roared to life, blades chopping the air, rockets loaded under Alina's own hands. She strapped in as flight engineer, headset tight against her ears. Across from her, the pilot eyed her with unease. "You better be worth the ghosts you carry," he muttered. The convoy appeared on dusty trails below, armored trucks, armed technicals, men ready to die to protect them. "Eyes up," Whitaker's voice came through comms. The valley walls closed in, jagged teeth of stone. It was a kill box. The insurgents opened fire, tracer rounds slicing the air. RPG, left ridge. Alina's instinct snapped awake. She wasn't thinking, she was remembering. Every contour, every echo of gunfire was déjà vu. She called out coordinates with surgical precision. Mark 20 north, 15 high, fire now. The pilot trusted her voice. Rockets screamed, detonating against the ridge, silencing the launchers before they could strike. The Apaches danced through the gauntlet, but the fire was relentless. Alina's hands flew over controls, rerouting power, loading countermeasures. She was calm in chaos, her heartbeat syncing with the machine around her. And then, the final trap. The convoy split, a decoy drawing the gunships into a canyon slit barely wider than their blades. The cliffs above exploded in muzzle flashes. For a heartbeat, it seemed certain. They would not make it out. But Alina stood, harness straining, eyes blazing. "Trust me," she said. And the commander did. The Apaches pulled into a maneuver no manual had ever written. Guided by her memory of the ghost Talon's escape years ago, they threaded the canyon, banking at impossible angles, rockets slamming into choke points. The stone walls themselves became weapons, collapsing onto the convoy below. By the time the dust cleared, silence reigned. The valley was theirs. Not one Apache was lost. Back at the base, soldiers erupted in cheers as the gunships landed. Alina stepped out, helmet in hand, hair matted with sweat. For the first time, eyes didn't glance past her. They fixed on her with awe, respect, and something deeper. The commander approached. For years, he had carried the weight of the ghost Talons, the ghosts of those he couldn't save. And now, standing before him, was proof that sometimes, the past doesn't just haunt, it redeems. He saluted her. "Welcome back, ghost." Alina's eyes glistened, but she held his gaze, her voice firm. "I never left. The camera lingers on her insignia, frayed but proud, as the screen slowly fades to black. Some legacies don't die. They just wait for the right moment to rise again. The music swells, strings pulling at the heart. And then the words appear. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.